It turns out that people who are more socially connected to family, to friends, to community, are happier, they're physically healthier, and they live longer than people who are less well connected.
So how about the fact that we all live in separated houses where you need to drive 30 minutes to work through traffic,
Dude.
where you don't see your kids for more than 2 hours a day? Oof. We set up a society that goes against these norms.
Because then it makes people value things that can make companies rich. Making you value having a lot of material goods to make up for not having cool relationships in your life. So if you're never satisfied by your relationships, you're always going to be searching to be satisfied by something else.
Hey, folks.
Hi.
We're back with another episode of Learn With Us,
Where we take videos that could change your day for the better, and we watch them, and we talk about them.
And we learn from them.
We learn from them.
With you.
With you. What's today?
Today, we are moving into the realm of the TED Talks, because
Whoa.
TED Talks are amazing.
We did one earlier.
Yes, we did one earlier on ancestry, and it blew us away. Super cool.
Yeah, it's probably one of my favorites that we've done so far.
So this one is all about a world happiness report and the learnings from that. So it's all about what makes a fulfilling life, which is
Our
exactly
channel.
what we're interested in.
What keeps us healthy and happy as we go through life? If you were going to invest now in your future best self, where would you put your time and your energy? There was a recent survey of millennials asking them what their most important life goals were. And over 80% said that a major life goal for them was to get rich. And another 50% of those same young adults said that another major life goal was to become famous.
Yeah, I feel like I have two things on this. Like, first, this shouldn't be a surprise, I feel like, to anyone. The findings, because this is just a reflection of our society. Though, like, why wouldn't we? Our whole society is built around becoming rich and famous. And the unattainability of that, which makes people want it more. And yeah, so then that leads into the second thing of, if 50% of millennials are searching for that, and it was like 80% almost was wanting to be rich as well.
Yeah.
That's unattainable for almost all those people. So why are we creating these standards that are, by their nature, unattainable? We can't all be rich. We can't, because being rich means that at some point, like if you're really rich, that means at some point you have to somehow demean someone else or some other thing, and we can't all be doing that. So there has to be, if you want this upper rich class, you need this lower class by nature, and the lower class has to be way more people.
So then with 80% of that lower class wanting to be this upper class, all you're going to have is this crazy competition where people screw each other over
Capitalism.
all the time.
And then anyone at the top in this system, no one's actually happy. No one at the top is like, oh, I have enough money, I'm rich.
Yeah.
No rich
also,
person feels
it's also
that
like
way.
the way in which we define what rich is.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that is really the root of the issue, because if we're defining wealth as something, as health, as community, as love in your life, as the relationships, like if you define wealth in that way and then you say, I want to be rich, if we made that our standard, then we could forget about that top and bottom layer and all move into a place where that is possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the lessons aren't about wealth or fame or working harder and harder. The clearest message that we get from this 75-year study is this: good relationships keep us happier and healthier. Period.
No.
Dude, it's so
Wow.
It's so dumb. Like, it's cool that they're doing a study like this,
To find the thing that we should all know.
but it's so dumb that we just don't know that.
It's so dumb. Dude. And these are people who are all living in this time in American society where, in my opinion, relationships are very undervalued. So even with that, they're still saying that this is the most important thing. So you can't get around that, even if you're trying to.
The first is that social connections are really good for us and that loneliness kills. It turns out that people who are more socially connected to family, to friends, to community are happier, they're physically healthier, and they live longer than people who are less well connected.
So how about the fact that we all live in separated houses where you need to drive 30 minutes to work through traffic,
Dude.
where you don't see your kids for more than 2 hours a day? Like,
Oof.
we set up a society that goes against these norms.
Because then it makes people value things that can make companies rich. Making you value having a lot of material goods to make up for not having cool relationships in your life, or wanting to be rich and famous, which all like makes all people just be searching for that more, never being satisfied. So if you're never satisfied by your relationships, you're always going to be searching to be satisfied by something else, because you need satisfaction through your relationships.
Yeah, like with a relationship, your life gets so simple. Like, rather than having to go out and do certain things, you can bring things to your house with your friends or whatever.
Yeah.
You just go to the grocery store or a local farm, buy your simple foods, go home and cook with your family, and you're going to have a good time.
A great time. Yeah.
A better time than you could have paying for expensive meals, meeting people for like 30 minutes that you met on an online dating site, because that's how
seriously.
we set up our communities now.
Oh my gosh. Just the idea of people living alone in apartments. That's like a super normal thing. Like, I just live alone in a house. I live alone in an apartment. What?
Say
Who came up with that? You idiots.
you fools.
You fools.
And the experience of loneliness turns out to be toxic. People who are more isolated than they want to be from others find that they are less happy, their health declines earlier in midlife, their brain functioning declines sooner, and they live shorter lives.
What I find even crazier about like those things too is that they are all self-deprecating cycles. Like, once you become lonely and you feel isolated from the world, you close off to the world.
And you tell yourself that narrative. Like, oh, people just don't get me.
Yes.
Or I shouldn't put myself out there because the world already doesn't want me. I think that loneliness could be one of the biggest reasons why we have societal issues. Just general loneliness, that creates so many problems, because then you think about our entertainment industry and how that's almost like they're curing loneliness. They have people living their lives. You can watch a whole movie about people's lives. You can go on social media, look at all your friends and not have to interact with them. It's like the cure for loneliness, but it's not the real thing. So it just makes you more
it's
lonely.
an artificial cure for loneliness.
Makes you more lonely even though you don't realize it.
Jeez. It's
How messed up
it's
is
like
that?
the pharmaceutical industry is giving you pills to just keep band-aiding whatever your issue is, rather than working on the root of it. This is making me want to listen to some alt rock and go
Rage Against the Machine. Yeah.
Than people who are not lonely. And the sad fact is that at any given time, more than 1 in 5 Americans will report that they're lonely.
1 in 5 Americans report that they're lonely.
The other 4 probably are too afraid to admit it.
But hey, this is the stuff we need to hear.
Yeah.
Because it is like, although we shouldn't need stats to prove this,
Right.
we in the way that we value science and
Yes.
put it on the pedestal,
Yep.
we do need stuff like this.
Yep.
And there's your stat, folks.
There's your damn
one
stat.
1 in 5 folks lonely,
Yeah.
and loneliness leads to a shorter life, worse health.
Come on.
What?
Lonely in a crowd, and you can be lonely in a marriage. So the second big lesson that we learned is that it's not just the number of friends you have, and it's not whether or not you're in a committed relationship, but it's the quality of your close relationships that matters. It turns out that living in the midst of conflict is really bad for our health. High conflict marriages, for example, without much affection, turn out to be very bad for our health, perhaps worse than getting divorced.
Culturally, the forefront that you should stay together with the person you marry, and that divorce is a bad thing and it's shamed, then even if you are in this relationship where the two of you isolate from everyone else, you're in your own living space and you don't get along, so that all of your time that you're spending outside of work, which is also probably a stressor on you based on the way we work, is with another stressor. Rather than being loving towards that situation, saying, look, the two of you aren't together, like aren't doing well together.
Yeah.
Come join this community that we have, a nice, well-knit thing. Instead, you are, the brave thing to do is to fight through it.
Yeah.
Once we had followed our men all the way into their 80s, we wanted to look back at them at midlife and to see if we could predict who was going to grow into a happy, healthy octogenarian and who wasn't. And when we gathered together everything we knew about them at age 50, it wasn't their middle-aged cholesterol levels that predicted how they were going to grow old. It was how satisfied they were in their relationships. The people who were the most satisfied in their relationships at age 50 were the healthiest at age 80.
Yo, and now we have Fitbits and stuff that are telling you your heart rate, how many steps you took that day, what your blood pressure is, and we're so focused on these ideas of numeric health. That isn't even the thing that's going to best predict how happy, how good your life is. How long you last.
How long you, yeah. Oh, damn. That is actually crazy.
Dude, our health culture is also screwed. Like, it's interesting because, I mean, the really beautiful thing about everything we've been complaining about throughout this episode is that there are massive movements right now in the other direction.
Yeah. No, I'm fired up. I'm not just I'm not just like throwing stuff at a wall like, oh, I'm mad. I am fired up to go do something different about this.
Just do it differently through the way we live.
Yeah.
But now that all of this stuff is laid out on the table,
Yes.
we can see, and now the power is in our hands.
Yes.
To choose how we're going to build community from now on, how we're going to build our lives. And we know they could predict with these people based just on your relationships.
We didn't need this study,
No.
but it just reinforces everything else.
Yeah.
It turns out that being in a securely attached relationship to another person in your 80s is protective. That the people who are in relationships where they really feel they can count on the other person in times of need, those people's memories stay sharper longer. And the people in relationships where they feel they really can't count on the other one, those are the people who experience earlier memory decline.
Yeah, and then think about the people who have raised their children in a way where their children want to be there for their parents the whole time. Then it's like those people, not only do they have each other, but they also have a net of people underneath them who are younger, quicker, whatever.
And then expand that to this way to community levels. Then you have tons of people. Plenty of people.
Like the way you care for your best friend's parents.
Yeah.
Like if your best friend's parents got cancer or something, you would feel driven to do things for them, to bring them meals, to drive them to the hospital, whatever they needed.
And especially if you all live together.
Yes. Yeah, if we lived in at least closer proximity than we do.
Yeah.
You know, like,
They don't have to be smooth all the time. Some of our octogenarian couples could bicker with each other day in and day out. But as long as they felt that they could really count on the other when the going got tough, those arguments didn't take a toll on their memories. So, this message that good, close relationships are good for our health and well-being, this is wisdom that's as old as the hills. Why is this so hard to get and so easy to ignore? Well, we're human. What we'd really like is a quick fix, something we can get that'll make our lives good and keep them that way. Relationships are messy and they're complicated, and the hard work of tending to family.
I think this is something that we need to change about the way we view humanity.
Yes.
Like,
That's exactly what I was just thinking.
Dude, imagine if we switched the narrative.
It's all of the narrative. It's not actually what our nature is.
Yeah. Yes, we're not built for quick fixes.
No.
We're built for, like, engaged problem solving.
Yes.
That takes time.
Yes.
And every little piece of it that you're focused on just gives you so much more joy.
Yes.
Because you're working through it. But instead we, like, convince ourselves that quick fix is what we want.
It's not. It's not at all. This guy, like, he is saying something about... He's like implying that this is human nature. It's not human nature. This is society that has bent us this way.
Why do you think these are, he just said, age-old wisdoms? Why do you think we knew these for so long?
Dude.
If it wasn't in our nature.
We suppressed them. Exactly. Exactly.
We obviously knew them because it was natural for us to know those things.
Yeah.
And it's just like an attitude switch that, I mean, I think... Like, for me personally, too, now when friends are doing something to kind of avoid issues, whatever it is, like playing video games or, like, drinking is usually the two big ones, smoking, whatever. And then they're complaining about the issues they have. And I don't have those issues, not to say, like, I'm better in any sort of way, but I avoid so many of those issues because instead of doing something to avoid it, I just went and worked on it.
Yeah.
And it's not harder to do. It's also nicer to do. It gives you a real satisfaction rather than just having this thing in the back of your head the whole time.
Yeah.
And whenever I don't start working on something and I just leave it there is when I get curled up into a ball in the corner and I'm just like, I don't know how to act right now.
Ooh.
And it's just one mindset switch.
Yeah.
From it's natural for us to work on things ahead of time and just like be engaged with life, or it's natural to take the easy way out.
Bars.
The people in our 75-year study who were the happiest in retirement were the people who had actively worked to replace workmates with new playmates. Just like the millennials in that recent survey, many of our men, when they were starting out as young adults, really believed that fame and wealth and high achievement were what they needed to go after to have a good life. But over and over these 75 years, our study has shown that the people who fared the best were the people who leaned into relationships with family, with friends, with community. I'd like to close with a quote from Mark Twain. More than a century ago, he was looking back on his life, and he wrote this: "There isn't time. So brief is life for bickerings, apologies, heartburnings, callings to account. There is only time for loving, and but an instant, so to speak, for that. The good life is built with good relationships." Thank you.
What would you say are places that you could start on this?
I think the first thing that I could do is just do more with people. Just whenever I have free time, just do stuff with people. Like, as safe as you can, given the circumstances of the global pandemic. But I never regret going out and doing something with someone that I care about.
Yeah.
Never. I have never once regretted that.
Yeah.
Never once regretted going and jumping in the water or going for a walk, anything like that. But I've regretted so many times just spending an evening by myself doing nothing good. You know, just suppressing
Yeah.
the issues.
And I think it's interesting because I think the relationships we have externally also reflect our internal relationship and vice versa. And I think to understand the way that you treat yourself is also going to be how you're treating other people. Like if you're snappy, judgmental within you, you're going to snap and judge other people all the time.
Yeah.
Because you haven't just built that acceptance for what you are and for what other people are.
That's such a powerful thing that I've been learning more and more, is just sort of radical acceptance of whatever the thing is that you are. Just being so accepting and loving of that and not trying to change that. You will naturally move to a much more healthy place and become a much more healthy person without even trying to. And you'll be a lot more accepting of everyone else for whatever they are. And that's all you'll want from other people. Is just whatever you are, I just want that.
That's a practice you can do during COVID alone, too, is working within yourself. That's why I brought that up, because if you physically can't be with someone, you're always with yourself. And that can always flourish. And that will flourish everything else. Another mindset switch that about what we are naturally. Are we something that naturally evolves or naturally remains stagnant? If you think about your evolution as something that comes natural to you, then accepting yourself for who you are is going to be the way you evolve, because all you're doing is allowing yourself to be that thing that evolves.
Wow.
Rather than, I think our culture is often trying to force yourself into a mold and then be that thing.
And you're trying to identify with something other than your essence.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that just leads to more disconnects. Whereas if you allow yourself to naturally evolve as what you are.
And whatever that is.
Whatever that is.
You don't know what that is. I don't know what that is.
And you give that same thing to your friends and family.
Yeah. Wow.
Is making that space for them to accept what they are. Because no matter what, we're always putting judgments into the things we say. You know? Like, if your family member is like, oh, like, I might be overweight right now, what do you think? You're immediately going to be like giving your judgments and your ideas of what will help them become healthier. But you putting things on them are not going to build the habits within themselves to really solve that issue. Whereas if you give them the space to express those things and to really work through those things, they'll be able to accept whatever the issues are that they have at that time, and then be able to figure out the way that they can carry forward.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the thing that actually leads to them evolving, just allowing them to be them.
Damn.
Yeah.
Radical acceptance, everyone.
That's
That's
some
what
good
we're
stuff.
looking for. Hey, we learned it. Now let's go live it.
Hey. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know if there's anything else you'd like us to react to.
I'm fired up.
I'm excited for
Let's
life
go
right
do it.
now.
Let's go
Let's
live.
do it.
Let's go. Right now.
All right, much love.
All right.